David's first love accused me of plagiarizing his project proposal. Not only did he not clear my name, but he even made me admit fault at the annual company gala and apologize to his first love. When I returned home for a company conference, a familiar voice suddenly called out behind me, "Kat, you're back." It was David. Amidst the crowd's strange stares, David strode towards me. "Kat, where have you been for 9 years? I've been looking for you." He grabbed my hand anxiously, but hearing his words, I only found it ridiculous. So many years had passed, but David was still so naive. When I appeared at the annual company gala, my colleagues looked at me with even more contempt. They kept their distance, as if I were garbage. In their minds, I was garbage, a useless nobody who got in using connections, a failure who only knew how to plagiarize proposals. I suppressed the resentment in my heart. They were just people who had been deceived. I didn't need to dwell on them. I only cared about David's opinion. Just then, David and Olivia walked in together. They were wearing matching outfits, looking like a couple. David saw me, and a flicker of displeasure crossed his eyes. Olivia, meanwhile, smiled at the colleagues around her and said, "All right everyone, the annual company gala is starting soon. Let's have fun, we can talk about anything else later." Olivia's words undoubtedly piled the blame onto me. Her gaze held a hint of mockery, as if she were laughing at me. David suddenly reached out and put his arm around Olivia's waist. Olivia paused for a moment, then leaned her head on his shoulder, looking shy. I couldn't hold back any longer. I swung a slap. David yelled, "Catherine, are you insane?" I sneered, "You're having an affair with this woman." "Am I insane, or are you?" David rolled his eyes and said impatiently, "Olivia and I are just good friends right now. I see her as a sister. Don't have such a dirty mind. I haven't even brought up you plagiarizin' Olivia's project proposal yet, so what right do you have to get angry?" Hearing David's words, I felt a chill run through me. I looked at him in disbelief. "We grew up together. Don't you know what kind of person I am? You're just that biased towards Olivia, whatever she says goes, and you won't even give me a chance to explain." It turned out his heart had never been with me. Since that was the case, I gave a cold laugh and turned to leave. David suddenly called out to me, "Stop, since everyone is here, you should publicly apologize to Olivia right now. Otherwise, I'm breaking up with you." David's words made me tremble with rage. I blurted out, "Apologize to her? On what grounds? She's just a homewrecker who interfered in someone else's relationship. She doesn't deserve to hear my words." David rushed over to me and slapped me hard. He yelled, "What are you talking about? If anyone's a homewrecker, it's you. You're the third party who interfered in someone else's relationship. You knew." Seeing the gossiping looks from the colleagues, David fell silent for a moment, then stiffly changed the subject. "Are you really not going to apologize?" I looked at him, my heart aching so much I couldn't breathe. "Are you so sure that I plagiarized Olivia, and not that Olivia plagiarized my proposal?" David said without hesitation, "Olivia is such a capable person. You're just someone who got into the company using connections. What makes you think you can compare to Olivia?" Just as I was about to say something else, David cut me off. "Stop talking. If it's not yours, why don't you give it back?" I looked at the self-righteous David. The way he stood by Olivia's side, unwavering, deeply hurt my heart. How ridiculous. The person who should have believed me the most was the one who doubted me completely. I said calmly, "You don't believe me, do you? I'll just put the evidence right in front of you." I took out a USB drive and showed everyone the initial draft and the final version of the proposal I had written. That complex information couldn't have been plagiarized, it was too detailed and original. Everyone fell silent in the face of this evidence. Olivia's face turned pale. I looked steadily at David and said, "Do you believe me now?" David gave a cold laugh and said angrily, "Catherine, what do these pieces of evidence prove? I didn't realize you were so shameless. That USB drive was a gift I gave to Olivia. If you don't believe me, you can check, it's engraved with DY, representing David's initials, on the bottom." Hearing this, I stared at David, stunned as if struck by lightning. I knew there was indeed an engraving on the bottom of the USB drive. It was on my birthday that I found this USB drive filled with diamond accents at David's place. At that time, David said it was a birthday gift for me. Looking back now, I finally understood the panic on his face back then. This gift was never meant for me. David was right. If something wasn't mine, I should indeed give it back. I finally accepted the truth. David was no longer the person I loved. He had changed. David looked at Olivia with a pained expression and continued, "I was with Olivia the whole time she worked on this project proposal. I watched her personally calculate every single piece of data. If you want evidence, isn't my testimony as a witness evidence enough? I didn't speak. I was speechless. David's words were more effective than all the evidence I had presented. Olivia's eyes turned red, looking very moved. David declared righteously, although Catherine is my girlfriend, I cannot protect her just because she is. The surrounding colleagues applauded loudly. I stood frozen in place, feeling a chill throughout my body. At that moment, I finally understood what it felt like to have my heart turn to ashes. How laughable. David always said he hated liars the most, yet for Olivia, he lied again and again. I didn't understand what charm Olivia possessed that made David abandon his principles like this. But I didn't want to understand anymore. I was exhausted. I didn't want to argue with them. Just as I was about to leave, David forcefully dragged me to the backstage area. He looked at me with utter annoyance and said, "Catherine, can you stop making a scene?" I just looked at him without speaking. David thought I would obediently admit I was wrong like before. His words became increasingly rude. "Can't you just be a little more obedient? Can't you be sensible, like Olivia? I have a lot on my plate all day. Can you just make things easier for me?" David was due for a promotion soon, but the CEO was resigning and wanted him to take over the company. I looked at him blankly. The way David was now felt completely unfamiliar to me. David continued, "Go back and apologize to Olivia, and this whole thing will be over. Don't try to compare yourself to her in any way. You'll never measure up to her." I pulled his hand away. The pain in my chest made it hard to breathe. The emotions I had suppressed for so long finally exploded. I looked at David in disappointment. "David, we've known each other for over 20 years. Why don't you believe me?" David was silent for a long time, then looked back at me with disappointment. "Catherine, stop acting. You should be in show business, not here." I laughed out loud in despair. This was the man I had loved for over 10 years, now turned so hateful. When did he start changing? Maybe it was after he met Olivia. That's when he got together with Olivia and pushed me away. I was heartbroken, but I could understand. After all, Olivia was his girlfriend. Later, he broke up with Olivia and came crying to me. I knew his heart still belonged to Olivia, but I still happily agreed to his request. I thought, as long as he was with me, as long as he didn't leave me, as long as I was better and better to him, maybe I could carve out a place in his heart. So, during the years we were together, even when he became increasingly impatient with me, even when he threw my gifts into the trash countless times in front of me, even when Olivia reappeared and his heart unequivocally leaned towards her, I gritted my teeth and clung to my love for him. I always approached him with a sense of humility, begging him to come back to me again and again. Under his cold gaze, I swallowed all my grievances. This time, I was tired. I didn't want to love him anymore. I wiped away the tears from the corners of my eyes, composed myself, and asked David, "If you didn't love me, why did you get together with me in the first place?" David looked somewhat surprised to hear my question. Just then, Olivia appeared in the backstage area. She slowly walked towards David. When David saw her, his eyes instantly softened. Seeing this, I finally had to admit that David had never loved me. I gave a self-deprecating laugh. After Olivia stopped beside David, she whispered to him, "Everyone's here. Let's talk about this later." She paused, then added, "David, I don't want you to fight with Catherine because of me. I'd rather be wronged myself than put you in a difficult position." Hearing this, David's eyes reddened. Seeing the two of them acting lovey-dovey, I gave a cold laugh and turned to leave. David said behind me, "If it hadn't been for you back then, I wouldn't have broken up with Olivia. You used my parents to force me to be with you." I wanted to ask David what he meant, but the annual company gala was starting soon, so I had to return to my seat. David and Olivia were intimate for a while, then followed me out and sat not far away. Watching their closeness, my eyes stung. I closed them, not daring to look anymore. I was afraid I would break down right there if I kept watching them. But no matter how hard I tried to clear my mind, I could still see the gentle smile David had for Olivia, a smile I had always strived for but could never have. Just then, the CEO on stage called my name and announced that I was this year's outstanding employee, asking me to come up and accept the award. After the CEO announced my name, the audience instantly fell silent. The entire ballroom became eerily quiet. I instinctively looked at David, only to see him looking at Olivia with a pained expression, while Olivia had her head down, constantly rubbing her eyes. Seeing that I was looking at David and not going on stage, the CEO called my name again, "Catherine." Only then did I realize that the CEO was still waiting for me on stage. Just as I stood up, David's angry voice suddenly rang out. "Catherine is unethical and plagiarized someone else's project proposal. How can someone like that be named outstanding employee, CEO? How much did Catherine pay you to make you speak against your conscience like that? David's words made the atmosphere even more silent. I couldn't hold back any longer. I strode onto the stage, took the microphone from the CEO's hand. The day I joined this company, rumors started circulating that I was a relative, that I got in using connections. I wanted to clear my name back then, but David, my boyfriend, told me, let the truth speak for itself. I paused, looked at David's grim face, and continued, now, I'll tell you the truth. David wanted to start his own business back then. I didn't want him to struggle so much, so I secretly invested in this company to help him out when necessary. The projects people thought I stole were actually brought in by me, and only I was qualified to take on these projects. This Ms. Olivia is David's first love. She is the one who got in using connections. All the project proposals she's done over the years were done by David. He did them for her. I put the contents of another USB drive up on the screen. Seeing what was on it, David and Olivia's faces instantly changed. The color drained from their faces, and the triumph in their eyes vanished in an instant. They obviously never expected that I could produce this kind of evidence. David let out a cry and lunged forward, trying to shut off the projector, but I blocked him. He clawed and struggled desperately against me. I had run out of patience with him and pushed him away. David looked at me with hatred. I hate you, you deserve to die. You asked me why I was with you. Because I hated you, you made me and Olivia break up, so I wanted to torment you, to destroy your life. David's words sent me plunging into an abyss. The USB drive contained surveillance video. No matter how desperately David yelled for people not to watch, the video played smoothly. In the surveillance video, David and Olivia appeared at my place. They were having an affair in my bed. After they finished, they went to the study and copied my project proposal. In the footage, David even boasted, when the CEO sees tomorrow that your two proposals are identical, Catherine will be kicked out, thanks to me. Olivia, I won't let her appear around us and interfere with our relationship. Olivia still showed some guilt and unease. Isn't this wrong? Maybe let's just forget it. Let's just be friends in this life. David cut her off, saying angrily, you are the woman I've decided is my wife for this lifetime. If it wasn't for her wrongly accusing you and breaking us up back then, we would have been married long ago. After watching the surveillance video, the entire room erupted in uproar. I don't know how that day ended. I only know that David and Olivia's faces remained ashen, and before long, they were taken away by the police. When I got back to my place, David had been waiting for me for a long time. When he saw me, he said coldly, quiet down, Olivia is sleeping. I went to the bedroom and saw Olivia sleeping soundly in my bed. Just as I was about to lose my temper, David pulled me into the study. He frowned and looked at me angrily. Do you have any idea that Olivia's father is sick and needs tea? He company bonus for medical treatment. By doing this, you've not only prevented her from getting the bonus but also caused her to be fired from the company. David was so angry his face was bright red, his chest heaving. I suddenly remembered when a classmate used to bully me as a child. David would get just as angry, his face turning red, and then he'd fiercely teach that kid a lesson. Back then, he told me, you belong to me. I won't let anyone bully you. Now, he was bullying me for someone else. I said softly, Olivia is lying to you. Her father owes loan sharks money and needs it for that. David cut me off. You're lying to me again. Last time you lied to me the same way, you lied and said Olivia cheated, and then you ganged up with my parents to force us to break up. How can I believe someone who lies as easily as you do? I remembered that back then, I discovered Olivia cheated. I was afraid David would misunderstand, so I told his parents about it. I didn't expect David to still misunderstand. I sighed inwardly and didn't speak. David continued, you always say you're good to me, so why would you do this to me? You know how much I love Olivia, yet you still appear around us and spy on us. You honestly make me sick. I was silent for a moment, then asked him, what do you want me to do? David said self-righteously, transfer the ownership of this house to Olivia, give her $5 million so she can start a business, and I'll forgive you. David and Olivia were thrown out of my place by security. As he left, David said furiously, Catherine, don't think I'll ever forgive you. I just smiled and threw the engagement ring I had planned to propose to him with into the trash. 9 years later, I set foot on the soil of Liberty City again. Stepping off the plane, I felt a little disoriented. 9 years had made the city feel somewhat unfamiliar. I rarely thought about the past during those 9 years. Just as I was lost in thought, a tall, handsome man appeared before me, smiling and holding out a bouquet of flowers. Welcome, Miss Catherine. This man was the son of a business partner, Daniel. There was a company conference in Liberty City. My parents insisted I attend in their place and also go as Daniel's date. I knew what they were thinking, of course. It was just that I hadn't dated for 9 years, and they were worried I was still hung up on the past. They were trying every trick to set me up with Daniel. I had no intention of dating. That period of unrequited love had robbed me of all courage to love again. Even so, I was still struck by Daniel's charm. When he came close, I still felt myself flush unconsciously. Daniel ran a multinational company. I was still a little flattered that he would take time out of his busy schedule to pick me up. You see, in the past, David had never once picked me up. He barely even had time to talk to me. Thinking of David, my mood became complicated, but that complexity vanished without a trace as Daniel spoke engagingly. Before the company conference began, Daniel came to pick me up. He was wearing a sharp suit and asked with a smile, "Do I look handsome today?" I smiled and replied, "You look great. Mr. Daniel, you're sure to captivate everyone today." Hearing my words, the smile in Daniel's eyes deepened. Throughout the conference, I stayed by Daniel's side, watching him talk engagingly with the guests. Seeing that he was talking constantly, I sympathetically handed him a glass of water. Noticing this, the guests teased, "Mr. Daniel's date is really attentive. We've never seen Mr. Daniel bring a date before. It seems this lady is quite special to him." Daniel's face flushed slightly. He looked into my eyes and said, "She certainly is special." After the guests left, Daniel asked if I felt bored. I shook my head. "I found what you were discussing with them very interesting. I learned a lot just by listening." I wasn't bored at all. Just as Daniel was about to say something, a familiar voice suddenly rang out behind me. "Catherine, you're back." It was David. Seeing David again, I felt as if an eternity had passed. Amidst the surprised stares of the crowd, David jogged over to me. "Catherine, where have you been for 9 years? I've been looking for you for so long." He, the man known as the Iceberg CEO, asked tearfully, "Was it because of him that you didn't want me anymore?" David's voice trembled. "Catherine, didn't you say I was the person you loved most in this life?" He grabbed my hand fearfully. He was actually wearing that ring on his ring finger. But I felt nothing, only the painful squeeze on my hand. But hearing David's words, I suddenly wanted to laugh. So many years had passed, but David was still so naive. Seeing the ring on David's finger, I suddenly remembered. 9 years ago, utterly devastated by David, I took a flight abroad at my parents' urging. Before leaving, I threw away the engagement ring I had carefully prepared. I had originally planned to propose to David with it on graduation day. But after everything that happened, I finally understood that David's heart was never with me. Before I left, I blocked David's contact. David had said that if something wasn't mine, I should give it back. I took David's words to heart and returned it to his first love. Thinking of Olivia, a flicker of resentment crossed my eyes. Being away from David for so many years, my love-struck tendencies gradually faded. Thinking about David was unbearable. I couldn't believe I had loved him for so many years. As for Olivia, the main culprit, I still hated her. At first, I hated her for being heartless, for stirring up trouble between me and David, and for leading David astray. Later, I came to understand. David's heart was already biased, he didn't need Olivia to lead him. But 9 years later, looking at David crying his eyes out in front of me, I felt a faint sense of disgust rising in my heart. I couldn't understand why I felt disgusted by him. Maybe it was disgust at his tears, or maybe it was thinking of those days of breakdown, that lonely and isolated period. I forcefully pulled David's hand away. "David, you said before that if something isn't mine, I should give it back." Hearing my words, David's face turned ashen. But he still held on, grabbing my hand again. "Catherine, I can't live without you. Don't leave me." I couldn't help but laugh. "David, who do you take me for? You really shouldn't hold on to me anymore. I'm afraid I'll be falsely accused of something else by Olivia later. I'm too old to handle all this drama." Hearing the name Olivia, David withdrew his hand, looking at me with tear-filled eyes. My heart was calm. Although I didn't know what had happened between him and Olivia over the past 6 years, his reaction didn't suggest anything good. Otherwise, he wouldn't be thinking of how good I was to him and coming back to find me. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. After all, Uncle George and Aunt Martha were good people, and I didn't want to make things awkward for them. Daniel saw the troubled look on my face and quickly took my hand, leading me out of the ballroom. Feeling Daniel's warmth, my heart suddenly softened. How wonderful it would have been if someone had been willing to reach out and pull me up when I was vilified by everyone back then. For so many years, I would often dream of myself curled up in a corner, with a crowd of people circling me aggressively, jeering at me. In the dream, I would desperately cry for help, but no one was willing to save me. After leaving the ballroom, I let out a sigh of relief and gave Daniel a strained smile. "Thank you." Daniel looked at me with a hint of worry and shook his head. Just as we were about to leave, David's voice came from behind us again. "Catherine, I won't let you go with that man." David was walking so fast that he tripped and fell. Looking disheveled, he saw the closeness between me and Daniel, and his eyes dimmed. "We haven't seen each other in so long. Can we talk?" I gave a dismissive laugh. I was becoming increasingly annoyed by David's behavior. What is there to talk about? Talk about how he teamed up with Olivia to falsely accuse me of plagiarizing a project proposal, or about how he dismissed my evidence after I proved my innocence. I had loved David desperately. Even back then, I knew he still had feelings for Olivia, yet when he asked, "Catherine, do you like me? Can you be with me?" I still nodded without hesitation, like a moth to a flame. But what I got in return was this kind of betrayal. I couldn't even imagine if that surveillance hadn't existed back then. Would I have been utterly ruined? Was something wrong with me? Would my company also have been affected because of me? What did I do wrong? Was loving David my mistake? And why did I deserve to be treated like that by them? Those days of being vilified by everyone were unbearable. David never stood by me. Instead, he watched me just as coldly as they did. I never feared other people's stares. All I ever wanted was David's support. Thinking of this, I curled my lip in disgust and remained silent. Seeing the disgust in my eyes, David instinctively reached for my hand, just like he used to before we fell out. Back then, whenever he wanted something, he would take my hand and act spoiled. At that time, I would agree to anything he asked. But now, I just felt sickened. Just as I was about to dodge David's touch, Daniel grabbed my hand and then forcefully swatted David's hand away. This action completely shattered David.